Have you ever felt disconnected from the world around you? Like you're just an isolated individual moving through life, separate from the people, nature, and even the universe itself. This feeling of separation is one of the most persistent illusions we carry, and it's at the heart of much of our suffering. Alan Watts, the renowned philosopher and spiritual teacher, believes that this sense of separation is not only misleading, but is the root cause of the anxiety and conflict that so many of us experience. In this video, we'll explore Watts' powerful insights on the illusion of separation and how recognizing the inherent unity of all life can transform the way you live, helping you find peace, joy, and a deeper connection to the world around you. From an early age, we are taught to see ourselves as distinct individuals, separate from the rest of the world. We learn that our identity is defined by the boundaries of our body and the labels we've been given: our name, our nationality, our job, and our achievements. But what if these boundaries are an illusion? What if the division between you and everything else is a construct of the mind, rather than a reflection of reality? According to Alan Watts, this sense of being a separate self is a misperception that keeps us from experiencing the truth of our interconnectedness with all things. Watts often described life as a vast ocean, with each individual being like a wave on the surface. While the waves may appear separate, they are all expressions of the same ocean beneath. In the same way, each of us may appear to be distinct individuals, but we are all part of the same underlying reality. The separations we perceive between ourselves and others, between ourselves and others, between ourselves and nature, are superficial. When we start to see beyond the surface, we can begin to recognize the deeper unity that connects us all. This understanding of unity isn't just an abstract idea. It has profound implications for how we live our lives. When we see ourselves as separate from others, it's easy to fall into patterns of fear, competition, and judgment. We become focused on protecting our individual interests, often at the expense of others. But when we begin to see ourselves as part of a greater whole, these divisions start to dissolve. Instead of seeing others as competitors or threats, we start to see them as reflections of ourselves. We begin to feel a deeper sense of compassion and empathy, not because we think we should, but because we think we should, but because we truly understand that we are all connected. Watts' philosophy invites us to step back from our narrow, ego-driven perspective and consider the bigger picture. When you start to see life from this broader perspective, you realize that the boundaries you've placed between yourself and the world are arbitrary. You are not just a separate individual, cut off from the rest of existence. You are an integral part of the universe. Every thought, action, and breath you take is connected to the larger web of life. This shift in perspective can be incredibly liberating. It frees you from the need to constantly defend your ego or prove your worth. You begin to move through life with a greater sense of ease and acceptance, knowing that you are not alone, but deeply interconnected with everything around you. But how do we break free from the illusion of separation? For Watts, the key lies in shifting our awareness. He encouraged us to let go of the rigid categories and labels we've been taught to use and instead focus on the present moment. When you truly immerse yourself in the here and now, you begin to see that life is not a collection of separate events, but a continuous flow. There is no point where you end and the rest of the universe begins. It's all one process, one movement. This realization can be both humbling and empowering, as it reminds us of our place within the grand tapestry of life. Another way to break the illusion of separation is through mindfulness and meditation. These practices help us quiet the constant chatter of the mind, which often reinforces the sense of separation. When the mind settles, we can start to experience reality more directly, without the filter of our thoughts and judgments. In these moments of stillness, the boundaries between self and other begin to blur, and we can catch a glimpse of the deeper unity that underlies all of existence. Watt's teachings remind us that the idea of separateness is just that, an idea. It's not an inherent truth about the world, but a mental construct that we've been conditioned to believe. When we start to question this belief and open ourselves up to the possibility that we are all interconnected, we can begin to experience life in a completely different way. This doesn't mean that we lose our individuality or identity. Rather, it means that we stop clinging to the false notion of being isolated and alone, and instead embrace the reality of our interconnectedness. As you begin to embrace this unity, you'll find that many of the stresses and anxieties that once weighed you down start to melt away. The fear of being alone, of not being enough, or of needing to constantly achieve to prove your worth. These are all products of the illusion of separation. When you realize that you are already an essential part of the whole, these fears lose their power over you. You no longer need to compete with others or strive for external validation because you understand that you are intrinsically connected to everything that exists. This recognition can also transform the way we relate to nature. In our modern world, we often see nature as something separate from ourselves, something to be controlled, exploited, or protected. But from the perspective of unity, we recognize that we are nature. The rivers, the trees, the animals, all of it is part of the same system of life that we belong to. When we harm the environment, we are ultimately harming ourselves. By reconnecting with the natural world, we can begin to restore balance, not only to the planet, but also to our own inner lives. One of the most beautiful aspects of Watt's teachings is that they encourage us to let go of the need to control life. When you see yourself as separate from the world, you feel the need to constantly manipulate your circumstances to ensure your survival and success. But when you recognize that you are already part of the flow of life, you can begin to trust in the natural processes that guide the universe. Life becomes less about trying to dominate or control and more about aligning yourself with the natural rhythms and movements of existence. This doesn't mean that we should become passive or disengaged from life. On the contrary, embracing unity allows us to act with greater clarity and purpose. When we no longer feel the need to defend or protect a separate ego, we can engage with the world more freely and openly. We become more attuned to the needs of others and the environment, and we can act in ways that benefit not just ourselves, but the whole. In this way, recognizing the unity of life empowers us to live with greater compassion, creativity, and freedom. In conclusion, the illusion of separation is one of the most pervasive and limiting beliefs we carry. It keeps us disconnected from ourselves, from others, and from the world around us. But as Alan Watts teaches, this sense of separation is not an inherent truth. It's a misperception that can be dissolved with awareness and understanding. When we begin to see through this illusion and recognize the deeper unity that connects all of life, we can experience a profound shift in how we live. We move from a place of fear, competition, and isolation to one of connection, compassion, and peace. This is the path to true freedom. Not the freedom of the individual ego, but the freedom that comes from realizing that we are all part of the same infinite flow of life. So, if you've ever felt like you're alone in the world or that you need to constantly fight for your place in it, consider this. You are not separate from the universe. You are not separate from the universe. You are an integral part of it, connected to every living thing, every star, every atom. And by embracing this unity, you can free yourself from the illusion of separation and begin to experience life in its fullest, most beautiful expression. Remember to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more insights inspired by the wisdom of Alan Watts and other great thinkers. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this topic. What resonated with you? How has the illusion of separation affected your life? Let us know in the comments below, and thank you for watching.